Hello, and welcome to Resolve, an afterplay show. This is an after show for a role-playing game that does not have an actual play, where we tell you all the details of our game so you don't have to listen to it. Hi, I'm Sammie, I'll be your host, my pronouns are she, her, and I play Asiri Amoli, the Hope of the Abyss. Joining me is my wonderful co-host, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I play Moogle Avatar of Alexander, Smog. Both of us use he, him pronouns.
We are joined today by Dee.
Hi, I'm Dee. You can use whatever pronouns as long as it's not it. And I play Geyser, the problems clown, but maybe this time she has a solution. And Geyser uses she, her pronouns.
All right, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Now that we're all here, Alex, why don't you tell us about the actual play?
Previously in EFFETE, Geyser feeds her crab and gives it a sociological survey about feeding. Smog and Tau meet with Ora and Alraune in the World Travel Labs and discuss Tau's new world and appearances in other worlds. Asiri helps Powder place a chair in the shallow end of her tank. Sierra investigates the changes in Asiri's physiology and in exchange has Hound share some information about fishing in Earth's past. Hound is able to access surprising information showing humans greatly harming ocean ecology. The room goes dark and alarms blare. Geyser, Tau, and Smog rush to Asiri and find her more fully embodying the abyss, restraining Sierra and several researchers. Smog summons Alexander to face the abyss and protect his friends. Hound answers Asiri's questions about Earth in a strange voice before falling, disabled. Asiri falls back into her tank and the lights return to normal. Medics rush Sierra out of the room. Asiri wakes and explains that she has remembered that she is the Abyss's hope. She also explains the incident to the guards, who in turn allow the rest of World Corps to leave. Tau finds Sierra and magically heals him before medics escort them out of the room. Geyser and Smog discuss the confrontation, their magics, and Geyser's future while Smog flies to his quarters.
Now you've heard the actual play, let's do a deep dive into the session. Oh boy. Oh goody. Well, let's go in order, I guess. It's crab time with Geyser.
We come back to the charter. I'm like, where's Sierra? And Sierra's teaching a lecture. I'm like, hey, guy, where's the crabs? And he thinks that I'm talking about the strider at first because I call the strider a crab too. He's like, oh, it's where we keep the rest of them. And Geyser's like, no, my crab, I have to give it fish. And Geyser's been playing this campaign with fish in her pocket because she promised the fish to the crab. And
that's gonna reek. It's gonna smell so bad. Although Sarah would probably enjoy it.
So Sierra says to go find one of the other scientists. And Geyser is just like, the first person in a lab coat gets my attention. Someone walks by and Geyser's like, show me to the place. And then they're like, okay, I'm kind of busy, but we can. I go to the crab and I start asking it a whole bunch of questions and pretending to take notes because that's what Geyser sees the scientists do with their little clipboards. Granted, Geyser has a tablet that she can actually write down actual information on, but Geyser decides to pretend to take notes instead. Learn a little bit about the crab behavior. Mostly that it just happens to be around other crabs, but they don't consciously cooperate with each other. They're just like, ooh, food, mine.
Yeah, it struggles with the concept of the large fish you were asking about. Holding a conversation seemed difficult. It's more like Geyser had the ability to understand what they were saying, not necessarily the ability to convey what she needed out of the crab.
And I think that the crab also doesn't have that strong of a memory because it can remember that there were other crabs with it, but it can't barely remember Geyser. And Geyser kidnapped the crab.
It was not traumatic enough.
After Geyser's like, okay, I think I don't have any more questions, she runs out of the room with the tanks.
I love that there was a researcher that had to watch that the whole time, make sure nothing terrible happened. Got very upset when Geyser just slammed fish down into the tank.
Yeah, you like puddle hopped it across. I'm sure that was a mess somebody had to clean up.
I mean, it's just a couple splashes here and there with some displaced water between friends.
There.
Kudos for Dan for playing the mind of a crab. I don't know what crabs think about. I don't think we've gotten to that level of cognition scientifically for arthropods, but I would believe it. That seemed pretty plausible.
They're also all from New Jersey.
Yes. Every single crab. In the meantime, Tao and Smog go to the portal lab and try to talk to Ora about Tao's new world.
Alraune just happens to be there.
Just chilling, having an in-depth conversation with Ora.
Probably explaining the concept of deities.
Maybe, or perhaps how the time cycles work in the world of ages. I don't know. I want to know what they were talking about beforehand. That sounds really interesting.
I just feel like it's always going to be stuff that Ora has a hard time with, because Ora wants to know more desperately.
I feel so bad for Ora in the past couple of weeks. We have given them way too much information and simultaneously no information.
Smog could probably give them more if he wanted to.
Sure.
He just doesn't. To be fair, we have our own jobs that we're supposed to be doing that are also important. Science can wait sometimes.
Science can never wait.
Geyser agrees, science cannot wait.
Most of this conversation was the three of us sorting out different explanations for Tao's new powers.
Yes. And I gotta say, that was a beautiful series of back and forths. Like, that was such a fun series of roleplay decisions that was made. It was a joy to listen to.
Yeah, I think Smog's big one here, even though he's not convinced of it, is Tao has pulled all of their possibilities into one timeline, stolen the possibility to appear in other timelines, and that's why Smog doesn't remember them, even though the World of Song is still in their original set of portals for Sequence Charter. That's why these other Taos still somewhat understand what's going on with the party and somewhat have their own lives they remember. I think there are definitely holes you could still poke in that, but I think another idea that we had is everything is just coming from Tao's new world somehow.
Ora, bless their heart, pulls out like a whiteboard and starts trying to draw like the spheres of existences that we've explored so far. And they just put like a giant question mark over Tao.
Yeah, they were very concerned with the possibility that Tao could use this to get people back to their homeworlds. And that doesn't seem like the case yet. Tao's and Ora's guesses were they would just get routed back either into the configuration or one of the other worlds that the party's already traveled to.
No, they have to try, though. We have to see what happens.
We'll see. I think as players, we were also like, oh, that could be the way we finally get home.
Mm-hmm.
If people are going back.
If people are going back. I like Alraune's concern in this situation, because at one point, she just goes up to Tao and is like, you haven't put people in this world yet, have you? And Tao's like, no, so far the only ones that have been there is me, and then the party traveling back and forth through places, but so far there's no sentient life there. And that seemed to relieve Alraune a bit.
Which gave Ora a whole new concern of, how do people get there? Can people get there without you knowing? What happens when they are there?
Tao's got a lot of putty to play with, and not really sure where all the gates lead to.
Their guess for now is, well, if someone was there, I would run into them. It's very empty.
If it's so empty, could you expect to see them, though? Depending on what part of the emptiness you're on.
Yeah, how does time move
How
there?
does time move?
I feel like I had a very funny line with Smog about that.
Oh, is it this? You asking if we trust Tao's fans to travel through Tao's fans?
Oh man, I did not edit that correctly. But yeah, it's basically that.
What does Geyser make of Tao's new world?
Geyser's teetering back and forth between extremely distrustful and, oh, this makes sense, moving on. I think Geyser can deal with the concept of there being more than one version of Tao. Tao is from quote-unquote Earth, and so a lot of the things that occur in Tao's world occur in Geyser's world. She gets that, kind of, but also new people keep showing up and they keep saying they're the same. She's highly suspicious of Tao's new form, but also it's plausible I guess if she's not actively thinking about it, then it doesn't matter.
That's fair.
That's how I feel about some things in real life.
But everyone's going through massive changes, and Geyser's just like, okay.
Does Geyser feel left behind in that?
No, mostly confused. Like, why? Don't do that again.
So at the end of this conversation, we have Ora reminding us that the new timer is going to pull everyone back through the portal in about 1 day sequence charter time. And then Tau and Ora start saying, oh, well, that could maybe cause a paradox, or something weird could happen. All of the Taus could come. None of them could come. Maybe it won't do anything because everyone's already there. And then Smog realizes, oh, a paradox is bad because Smog has a move that could make the Validator appear if there are 2 Smogs in the same place at the same time. So he's like, why don't we turn that off and not have the Validator come?
Yeah. The Validator does not sound like a good guest at parties. It does not sound like a good guest at a scientific experiment. Unless your experiment was to test to see if the Validator is real, in which case, done. But I am obsessed with Ora and Alraune's reaction to the Validator, which is just to be like, the Validator? The Validator? The Validator?
What is that? Why is that? That's so cheesy.
Why? Who is that, really?
We've already discussed this, like, in session, but I don't think anybody, except maybe Zach, knows Final Fantasy stuff as much. So the Validator for Smog, who will hopefully never appear up, but we'll see, is going to be Atmos, the gravity-based summon from Final Fantasy. And my thought is, there's 2 of you in the same place, or there's something wrong, spaghettifies you.
In response, Ora is just like, I have a lot of processing to do now.
They said, there are permutations I need to run. And I, in response, as Smog, say, be careful, I hear simulating universes can be as arduous as controlling them. Because the whole point of our earlier interstitial games was simulation. So I want to do a little callback to that. And Ora seems to understand this, probably because of the captain.
Yes. I'm obsessed with the linkages between universes here, which I guess is the point of this game, now that I say that out loud, but I'm obsessed with the continuity. Continuity! Consequences for our past actions! Please! I do like Alraune being like, hey, Smog, stop playing with time so much, it's dangerous. And Smog's like, yeah, I know.
That wasn't exactly her point, because she seemed to understand that it was for a reason, for a purpose. She was more like, you can't expect everyone to understand what the fuck you're saying all the time. You can't just say the Validator and keep moving on. It's like, right, I'm up to a speed that not everyone is up to yet. She did say, like, playing with time, and then caught herself, and it's like, you're not exactly doing that. So when we started the next scene, I was like, it's going to be a cute Assyrian Powder scene. Powder's finally going to say something. She's moving the chair in, and Assyria's like, fuck you dumbass. Let me put the fucking chair in place. And I just want to do my medical thing. Wait for me in this room. It's like, oh no, something else is happening.
I love Powder. Powder's such a good character. Grade A dumbass. Affectionate. It's not just a chair, it's one of those beach lounge chairs that are like as long as I am. Like, it's a big, heavy metal chair. Alone, scratching the floor, making a noise. I also love Sierra's response to this is like, if you didn't break anything, I didn't see it. Beautiful.
It's great because any of the other researchers around probably be like pissed off and say something, and he's supposed to be the one running things, and he just does not give a shit.
Yeah. He's like, as long as you're not causing excessive trouble, I'm cool. Which, knowing Sierra and like their past, makes a lot of sense. But yeah, Sierra goes to talk to Sierra more in private. The series like, I'm having medical problems. Please help me. Because this is beyond what I think my healing slime is capable of, and also there's things going on that I don't understand, so I need an outside opinion.
I should not be summoning dolphins.
I should not be summoning dolphins. I'm doing too much crazy-ass magic. Please help me. This is beyond what I'm supposed to be doing. You seem to be rather smart and like the ocean, so please help me. And Sierra, to his credit, is like, I'll give it a shot, but like, I really need you to be further inspected. And Sierra's just like, yeah, I'm sorry. I was worried you'd say that. And of course, she'll submit to a point.
She does use this as a way to get some information about fishing things she noticed from our last excursion.
That's the thing with Assyria, is like, she's seen a lot of things without context to them. Nets and weird shit that just like filters down into the ocean. She has no context for what these things are. They're there, in essence, at this point, part of the geography of her home, but she doesn't know what they were because they're definitely not what she would expect to see. And seeing them used in actual context starts to like spark feelings in her brain. And that's always dangerous.
For Assyria, at least.
Yes. She's very emotional.
Oh no, I'm having a feeling. I must make it a problem.
Okay, maybe not that bad.
It's very geyser core.
Yeah, Geyser kind of does that too. It's a good thing for role-playing characters because then you know that you've latched on to like something your character cares about, and we take a moment to play through it and dissect it and not just leave a weird hanging plot thread.
Yeah, so they go back, and Sierra and the, I guess, veterinary team, I don't know, the marine biology team goes and does a bunch of tests on her slime and like on her body and stuff. And then while they're waiting for results to come back, Sierra calls Hounded and is like, all right, show them what we know. I've only been able to access so much of these records because so much was lost when the governance war started. All of a sudden, Hound's just like, okay, here's what we got. And it's like way more than Sierra had access to previously. And it's all horrible shit, too. It's like shit from whaling from like the 70s, which was terrible if you know anything about the history of that. Modern oil spills, factory fishing, and all that horrible garbage. And it makes Assyria really upset. So much so that she starts cracking the acrylic of the temporary holding tank.
That part did not get to me. It wasn't until really the end of the scene here I was like, oh, it's happening.
What were your thoughts?
It's rational. Smog would probably have a similar response because it relates to his own homeworld as well. Mm-hmm. People are taking so much mana out of the earth, so much ether, and condensing it and fucking up the environment just to control a god. In the context of Earth stuff that's happening, it's not even for that much power. You're making all of these terrible bargains for nothing.
Understandably, this is very upsetting to our little fish lady. And she explodes. And by explodes, I mean the room fills with darkness. And sirens go off. And I appreciate that Smog's first reaction to hearing sirens go off in the marine lab was to send Geyser a message.
They're like, something happened? Geyser did it. I knew that clown was up to no good.
It was a question. It wasn't an accusation. It's like, are you in trouble? And Geyser was just on her way to the crab, so it wasn't like, what the hell did you do?
But the thought was there.
Yeah. Yes.
And Geyser's just like, no. Geyser knows how to read. This was something that I had to think about while this scene was occurring. Geyser knows how to read, but doesn't know how to write very well. All the messages are going to be clipped, more blunt than Geyser's like speaking cadences. She learned everything that there is to learn secondhand through observing Jilly. She doesn't have all the skills.
I don't think that speaking Geyser is much softer, like not as blunt. I just think that speaking Geyser is a lot faster and gets a lot more points in. So it's blunt and there's only one thing to focus on instead of there's a million different things to focus on. So you never really get the point of her bashing you over the head with something.
Yeah. The way I see it in my head, and Geyser's like a very used car salesman. Like,
I like that.
She's gonna say a lot of stuff beside the point and like around. Not gonna give you straight up all the time in speaking. Whereas texting, there's not enough dexterity to like have that bullshit layer on top, you know? So you're gonna say, I'm going to the crab. I fed the crab and I'm going to the crab, which is what Geyser said.
I'm just impressed at the broad range of literacy we have in this campaign.
We're so diverse.
We're all just trying to put off the big change here. Smog and Tao teleport into the room. Smog convinces Geyser to turn around and go back into the room. What we see are two glowing eyes and maybe kind of people trapped in tentacles around this almost completely darkened room.
It's so completely darkened, it will drive you mad. Welcome to the Eldritch Zone, baby. The Abyss is here. Listen, sometimes you get so upset that it awakens the lost essence of your true nature that was previously dormant.
I am the shadow.
It happens to the best of us. And the worst of us. But fortunately, Asiri is hopefully the best of us.
The horrors.
She is the horrors, and that's why she's beautiful.
They are upon us. Geyser's like, why are there eyes? And then I'm actually very surprised that Geyser did not have another freak out moment, but that was mostly because I was forced into like big brain mode. Tao is like, hey, don't do that, Asiri. And Asiri's like, silence, bitch.
No. She just said silence and held Tao. She did not say silence, bitch. Asiri does not swear. Asiri is contractually obligated to not say fuck.
Asiri is PG at best.
Yes. I can't envision her swearing. It just doesn't exist.
Do you think it's funny? Poor Tao got like caught up in the inky darkness tentacles. This is not hentai.
PG at best.
Geyser comes in and Geyser's like, oh, what the fuck? Is very, very calm about it, trying to like solve the problem in a relatively reasonable manner. One, I have no clue what's going on really, other than me, the player, knows that that's Asiri. But Geyser can't really see anything except that there's Tao and Alexander in the room.
We should stop back a moment if you're to mention Alexander, because that's a whole production.
All y'all run into the room, and I'm like, okay, I don't know why I didn't account for this, but I was not expecting all y'all to run into the room so quickly, but you guys were like, there. And then Smog's like, okay, Alexander time, let's go.
Smog reverts to Lassie crystal form, which means that he is nude and looks like a teddy bear sort of Moogle in crystal.
Why are they all naked?
I wish I understood why. I wish I knew why. But all of their private bits are always hidden by crystal chunks.
Yeah, well, as you do.
Oh, Final Fantasy. Fireflies for the Final Fantasy initiated are from Final Fantasy X, and they're little like motes of lights of color, and they're supposed to be like mana or ether, whatever Smog is talking about. He's talking about magic, and then summons like a throne around him that lifts up into a like castle tower with wings sprouting out of it that is Alexander. And this is Smog using the ultimate form move that I got for him a couple sessions ago.
And it was glorious, if not a very rude intrusion upon a domain that you do not have a say in.
Where there is darkness, there has to be light.
That's why I'm obsessed with Smog and the series dynamic, because for some reason we were like, we're going to be opposites today. We are opposites, but the same.
Yeah, we talked about this ages ago, about Smog being the darkness and the light, and Asiri being the light and the darkness.
And here we are. That angered Asiri. I don't know why you did that.
Some of the effects of Ultimate Form are healing someone. Tao is hurt. Removing someone from danger. There were several people caught up in tentacles. I decided Sierra was the one who needed to not be caught up in a tentacle anymore. Draw attention to yourself. If I'm going to be in a giant summoned form that is going to be a bit sturdier, then I want attention on me. I don't want you to pay attention to other people. And then transfer marked experience to a friend. We needed some help in that situation. Maybe a move would have helped. I dropped a bunch of experience on Geyser, showing her a vision of her and Jilly in the future, a little more separated conceptually, like they don't have to wax and wane with each other, but at a party, enjoying each other's company.
Hell yeah.
A possible future.
One, I would like to point out that Asiri did not hurt Tao. Tao was injured prior to this.
But Tao could have been hurt more for all we knew.
Who knows? But I like how you gave Geyser a vision while all this other shit was happening. That was not the best play.
We needed a power-up. Geyser used it for a stat boost. And I think it was relevant. I think she helped somebody within that session. So it was pretty useful.
You created more chaos for this poor clown.
Sometimes problem clowns need chaos to thrive.
They need problems.
Exactly. They need problems. And it certainly was a problem. I was thinking too hard, me personally, so I didn't have the proper, freak out that I think could have been in character. Just what's a way that I can interpret this information that makes sense? And I also have a move called the Path to Dawn, where you can switch your stats when you make a realization about yourself. I have a move that lets you use dark and light interchangeably, the third advancement for the discarded. So then I switched my heart, which is my worst stat, with light, which was better. And then I added
1 to heart?
Yeah. So now it doesn't matter that my light stat is shitty because I can use my dark stat for that. That was what I decided to do mechanically. But story-wise, too, I had to think, how does this vision impact Geyser? How do I weave this into the story seamlessly? Because that is not something I'm good at as a player. I don't think that's not my strength. Sammie and Alex are very good at viewing it from level 3000, and I can see everything. And I'm just there having a good time, I'm very in the moment. So now I have to think backstory. How is that future reasonably possible? Because I'm trying to help everybody else out too. So Geyser just connects herself to Tao and asks Tao, and this was also somebody else's idea, because I really couldn't think of what to do.
You had the start of it. You were like, I want to get people somewhere else. I want to know where's another good place. And I hopped in I know some places.
Eventually, I connected to Tao and was like, put us all to sleep. That didn't happen. It just kind of resolved. So, we were formulating a plan, and then, I guess that's over now. But it was a lot more dramatic than that. As Sammie said before, Siri was very upset that Alexander was there, and I thought it was funny because it's what are you doing being a god in my god domain? I'm a bitch. There can only be one bad bitch in this room.
That's true.
It can't be you.
Yes, I switched playbooks this last session. I am now the prodigy, which is a ton of fun. I had to throw Daniel under the bus here because this was not how I was expecting Asiri to go at all. And literally, the only reason we went down this road where Asiri was the Abyss, because when I made Asiri, I was like, okay, she's just a mermaid. Cool, whatever. Here's this cool religious cult, whatever. World building nonsense. But then when we were in the World of Ages, Daniel made the decision that one of the side effects of me limit breaking for Smog was that dark abyssal ink came out of her when she took damage for the mixed success on this limit break. And I was like, all right, I never specified that. That's interesting. And then the gears just kept kind of turning. So thank you, Daniel, for giving my character development that I didn't know. But as we sort of develop on, I've been inserting some weird, absurd power, even beyond mermaid magic, shouldn't be applicable. And now it's built up to this moment here where Asiri finally remembers what she really is, and that is a vessel for the Abyss.
I love that my playbook choice keeps having ripples throughout the game.
That right there is an example of all the big brain shit that y'all are good at. Because I remember you having the ink everywhere, but I didn't think it's because it was in you this whole time. This is your true power. I would have promptly vacuumed that tidbit straight out of my mind and just continue to about my day.
I have the opposite problem. I can't let anything go. Very detail. I'm like, what the fuck can I do with this? Like, this is interesting. I love this shit. So, but the way I rationalize this is a protection thing for the Abyss, right? Like, you don't want to give a toddler infinite power, right? So it lays dormant in the Abyss's selected vessels until a moment of clarity, a moment where they can fully come to form with the truth of what they really are, and they get all this information back. And unfortunately, instead of happening fathoms below, away from most problems where this might occur, it happened in a laboratory in front of an 82-year-old man who is probably now having a heart attack due to the stress of this eldritch abomination that's sitting right in front of them, asking for questions about how humanity ruined the Earth that they shared for. So,
Don't die, Sierra.
I feel terrible. Also, Asiri feels terrible. So I can't wait for the consequences of my actions next session. I'm excited.
You're gonna be the one with a wanted poster or a banned poster.
I don't know about that, but I do think after this resolve, all Asiri wanted was to know what the status of Earth is, and then how did humans get to this point, blah, blah, blah. All this information that Hound freaked out and hacked into more like governance data and then gave to her. And the only thing that she was asking was, from those who were like incurred the salvation from which humanity was taken by the governance and moved to this planet, of those remained, is life still possible? And Hound was like, it could be. It just depends on the choices that were made. The Abyss's response is, our title, Hope Remains. And then Asiri, exploded energy, falls flat unconscious, and then guards fill the room.
Yeah.
So, oh, that was so good.
I don't know why I had Smog hone in on the Hound stuff so much, but I was like, that's not the right voice. And it's telling us these things that make the governance seem justified. Like, some people were saved. That specific way of framing it was like, is this governance programming coming back? And we'll wrap around to that in a second, but just want to leave that hanging in our minds.
I don't know, but it quelled Asiri. Even if this had continued, I don't expect Asiri to turn to violence, because nothing she did was violent. She was just holding people in place. And I'm going to choose to describe it as if it was a warm hug. But a hug from an eldritch abomination is still a hug from an eldritch abomination. So take it as you will. All of the magic sucks back into Asiri, and she looks no different. She's still mermaid, cute, adorable, lots of teeth. But
muttering to herself.
But the only difference therein is for Smog, and if Athenos was still here, they notice eyes in her shadow staring at them and like weird black wisps that move around because they have the sense for the divine. I don't think anyone else can sense that.
Desert doesn't have supervision.
In both meanings of the word, really.
Yeah. I was like, I just double entendre. That's such a bad thing. Not a bad thing to say as in like morally wrong, but very cringe of me. I'm also curious about Pony too, even though she wasn't here for this session.
Oh my god, I just realized that's probably why the captain wasn't there instantly, is that Pony and the captain are probably training like out where they couldn't get a signal for the couple minutes this incident was going down.
Oh,
man.
Good. Yeah, oh lord. I cannot wait. I'm so excited for the consequences of my action. Because I've already told Dan, I'm like, I want Asiri to apologize to Sierra, be like, yo, this is not what I meant to do to you. I'm sorry. Whatever you need, I will do it. But also, what is the captain going to do? Because literally Sierra is their mentor. Sierra is one of their favorite people, and to see them collapse in this state like that has to be decimating to them.
Asiri was also the one who most ardently and probably most truthfully took the oath not to harm the people of Sequence Charter.
Exactly.
Smog was ready to cut and run when he needed to. Geyser is a menace, and is slowly becoming less so. Pony could be swayed by anyone.
Yeah.
And Tau is maybe second in line there. Athenos wouldn't understand that he's hurting people.
Yeah.
It feels really big for Asiri, who was at the forefront of accepting that, to have failed in that regard.
I have plans regarding this, but I don't want to say what they are quite yet. So, just know I am very aware of this problem. And I'm very excited.
You must not spoil the big brain plot.
Not even that. I've switched some things up depending on how story beats go. There's a lot of interconnected things going on here. And it's just so fun to pull all these threads that Dan's given us that connect to both the world he's created and then all the other player characters as well. It's worked so seamlessly. I'm just excited. Armed guards are here. I also like how the series just like, let everybody else go. They're not at fault. I am the only perpetrator here. You can keep me here. That's fine.
Honestly, you could have thrown me under the bus and it would have worked.
So, Smog's first thought was, we need to throw Hound under the bus because that could be a real problem if the governance programming is acting again. And they just rip a core right out of it like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And carry it along. Cool. Great. That won't be an issue.
And I love these poor guards. They're trying to access like the CCTV footage for this room, and it's just nothing. It's just black.
Black.
And then there's a big burst of light that's difficult to read. That's Alexander shooting beams of light to people that he's helping, and that's about it.
We got nothing, boss.
It's simultaneously too light and too dark.
God. I know we both rolled dark links for each other at the end of the session. If you'll allow it, I'm going to be a little bit of a jerk to Smog and Alexander.
I don't. It's that hard with Smog right now. It's just that this was a particular confrontational event, so we'll see how much energy Smog gives back with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm completely fine with.
Hell yeah.
He's been like, you can call me Smog every once in a while until the Siri was able to say Smog. So we'll see how a rivalry goes.
That was my favorite line when Alexander was just like, are you not trapped in the bounds of time? And the Abyss is just like, I am before time. How dare you try to assert your presence here?
I wanted to get more into that, but we had to continue with the Hound thing. But death, entropy, relies on time. How is that before time? How can you have an end if there's no passage?
But before everything, there was nothing. And here we have eternal nothing and darkness. There's nothing here. It's empty.
Okay.
It's primordial. Like, to refer to Greek mythology, because that's what I know the most about. It's like if you took Erebus, Nyx, and Chaos and rolled them into one. This is like a primordial entity that has no bounds and is like completely trapped in the body of a fish.
I loved how you talked about Asiri having that power, always being intended to have it, because it does create another nice contrast with Smog, where as far as fate is concerned and the way the timeline works, yes, he was always supposed to have it, but if he had just not continued to rely on his magic gun and let it blow up on him, Alexander wouldn't need to be in this position to need to save him. He could have made a choice and not had all of this terrible power and responsibility, whereas this is something that Asiri was always destined to have, and she tried to run away from it.
She didn't know better. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And I cannot wait, because I want to play with themes of natural order, the law of nature, and how these things go forward. And we have an entity that's just like, yeah, all right, we can move time around. We can do what needs to be done to serve our ends. And the Abyss is just like, no, don't do that. You can't, no. Oh, this is going to be so fun going forward. I'm so excited.
After that, Tau follows up with Sierra, does a little humming, heals him for their push up by the medics.
God, if Sierra dies, I'm going to die myself. I don't think that's going to happen because healing magic, but if something bad happens to Sierra, I will die. Just
in a vegetative state for a while.
Yeah.
Happens to die of old age in the next couple days.
No!
It wasn't the heart attack that did it.
I really want Asiri to be in the room when he wakes up and just like holding like a bouquet of sea anemones. Like,
oh, no.
Like, I'm sorry.
It was very sweet of Tau. I think it's good for them to be the caretaker when that would normally be a little bit more Asiri's role, because Asiri can't.
Yeah.
Right there.
A little busy. But I do like this scene from the perspective of these medical professionals. Their head scientist of this wing just got literally scared near to death. They're rushing him out for medical care, and this guy dressed as Jimmy Buffett comes in and sings a song. This poor man. So surreal.
Yeah, because on one hand, everyone on Sequence Charter knows who we are. We're celebrities. On the other hand, this is a new version of Tao, very confusing, dressed like Jimmy Buffett. It must be very confusing as somebody in that situation to be like, how much leeway do I give this person with the weird shit they're doing?
And the answer was not very much, because they kicked them out very quickly.
Get the fuck out.
We close off this session with a conversation between Smog and Geyser, as Geyser is trying to make sense of everything that just happened.
The scene was very cute between Smog and Geyser, but if I was an audience member, I'd be pretty annoyed at Geyser, like if this was a TV show. Everybody's trying to be helpful and be like, hey, it's okay, you can not be mean to people. Also, you can make friends. And Geyser's like, what? So this conversation is like, you can do great things, and also, you can ask for help sometimes. And Geyser's like, what's that? Who are people? What is help?
I was trying to also have a little tinge of the earlier, more insidious Smog, like, you have to know you can trust people because people might want to mine you for resources, but it ended up being like the complete opposite thing because he realized halfway through that Geyser didn't have any trust for anybody. It's like, oh, you need to be more trusting. You need to let people in. You don't need to be concerned about letting somebody experiment on you just because you want to know what's going on with you. Because that seemed like the direction you might be going in.
Smog's like, there's people you can trust. And Geyser doesn't understand trust. Only a surface level. I don't think this person will lie. Okay, I can trust that. Or, I think this person is kind of nice. I can trust that. But, like, I need to know these things. And I need to trust that they both know the thing and won't tell me something wrong. Or, like, something more serious and personal. Or, like, trying to understand self. That's not a concept to Geyser at all. You're teaching her how to do these things by starting 5 steps ahead. We're on calculus, and Geyser is still learning algebra.
It's funny that you say that. At the end of the session, when we were rolling links and changing everything, you had a move trigger that you felt betrayed by Assyria, and I was like, well, how does Geyser feel betrayed if they didn't trust Assyria in the first place? And then what you just said, oh, I get it. It's not that you trust them in that particular way. It's you trust their actions moving forward.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with Geyser's assessment of, like, your personality or character beyond the surface level. This seems like a nice person. It's more so, this is a pattern of behavior that I can expect. And stringing up Tao is, like, the opposite.
I didn't say strung up.
Holding upside down, waiting for a Spider-Man kiss.
No. They were held in place on the floor. That's it. They were just standing there.
The other part of that conversation was, we've had a Thanos, Smog has had a very big change, Assyria has had a very big change, Tao's had a very big change. All very big, deific things happening. Thinks about the power that he knows that Pony's going to come into, looks at Geyser and is like, are you sure you're not a god? Because Geyser is confused about god things that are happening. And, like, Geyser comes from a conceptual world and has lots of big magical powers that are based on people believing in her. It's not too wild to think of her in some sense as a deity, even if, like, a minor one. And she's immediately like, no, I know what I am.
Yeah.
I love that.
Geyser's not going to attach a ton of complicated meanings to things. That might be part of my limitations as a player coming through. Because again, I'm not good at the levels and layers stuff. But I don't think Geyser's like, I'm so great and I'm a deity. Because the concept of God exists, but it's more so people think of those things and they, like, pray, and Geyser's not that because nobody prays to her, so the answer is no.
Oh my god, I'm just realizing that the deities of Geyser's world must have been somebody's imaginary friend at some point.
Oh,
Oh That's so cringe. Like, like imagine you're a 3-year-old and you're like, I want a big teddy bear, and then like 1,000 years later, people are making ritualistic sacrifices to the bear you made at 3.
Oh my god.
Oh, there's equating of Geyser's ability to pull emotions from people and people having different colors and stuff to Smog's elemental magic and the different colors of those. Makes a point to show off the crystals in his eyes. And I feel like for every other character, it's been an oh moment for that's why those are there.
I made a note of that, but Geyser's, that's not something that's going to interest her too severely. That's good that you have that.
I'm glad.
Good for you. Love that for you. There was just so much happening, and I honestly wish that I had more time to like think before that happened. but I think how it turned out was fine.
I love that Smog at the end of this goes back to his room, and then we establish that Geyser just wanders the street at night, becoming like those 2016 clown horror stories.
A completely normal activity.
Yeah, Geyser does not sleep.
Would y'all have done anything differently?
I think I could have like made something more plot moving for Geyser's backstory at least, but I think I like how it turned out.
Yeah, I do too. I wish I could have been a bit more descriptive with some of the stuff going on, but once that started, everything happened all at once, so I was like, okay, well, let's get everybody their turn in, and we can elaborate on the fluff later. Let's get into the resolution phase, the segment of the show where we each get to say something about the game with no responses. What is your final say on this session, D?
Just keep swimming. You can find me on Twitter at @BacksliderD, at Instagram and PlayStation Network at IHadACowLOL. I have a Switch. We can be friends and play. I'm currently working through Far Cry 6, so check out that game.
And for you, Alex?
If you ever get into a big spat with your friend, you probably shouldn't turn into a god and yell at them in your booming voice. You can find me on Twitter at ShiningCrowbat. This week I'm recommending Roommates. It is a rom-com podcast. It was intended to be an animation, so they're pretty short episodes. It's like a little web series about college roommates in the height of the COVID pandemic falling in love. It's very cute. It has the same voice actors as one of the earlier podcasts I mentioned. Look up. And
for myself, I am excited to see where my new playbook takes me, and I think a series is going to have a lot of things to learn about themselves. You can find me in the deep, deep, dark abyss where I truly belong after all this time. This has been Resolve, an afterplay show. You can find us online at most social media sites at ResolveAP.
Except Instagram, which is at ResolveAfterplay.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. You can buy the game we're playing, Interstitial Our Hearts Intertwined, from its creator, Riley Hopkins, at linksmithgames.com.
All links will be in the episode description.
Thank you again for listening. We end our turn here, so now it's your turn. Tell us what's happening in your game.